The NFL draft is mere days away, and we are ranking each position group. Today, we are ranking the top 10 quarterbacks in the 2025 class, and that starts right now. So, we're going to start with the obvious one. It's going to be Cam Ward as my number one quarterback. Cam Ward is the cleanest prospect in this year's NFL draft. I don't necessarily think he has the most upside, but there's no doubt what he was able to do at Miami, at Washington State, even going back to Incarnate Word, it was impressive. You know, Incarnate Word, his last year there, over 4,600 yards passing, 65% completion percentage, 47 touchdowns. And then once he goes to Washington State, 2 seasons over 3,000 passing yards. The completion percentage is good, somewhere in the neighborhood of 64 to 66%. 23 and 25 passing touchdowns. And then, of course, we all know what he did at Miami, 4,300 passing yards, 67.2 completion percentage, and 39 touchdowns to just 7 interceptions. And he is going to provide a little bit on the ground for us fantasy gamers, 200 rushing yards, maybe not a lot, but it's going to be something. So he won't be a complete zero in that department. And what really impressed me this year was his yards per attempt went up significantly over his past 4 seasons in college. So let's move on to my quarterback 2, and he's in tier 2 with another quarterback, and that's Shedeur, or no, it's not Shedeur Sanders. It's Jackson Dart. How can this be, Seth? How can you have Jackson Dart ahead of Shedeur Sanders? Well, I think Jackson Dart has the most upside out of any quarterback in this class. Sure, he has some bust potential, but I believe the traits are there. I think the arm strength is there. I think the accuracy there is there. Now he has some things to clean up. He needs to throw with a little bit more anticipation, I think. At Ole Miss, I think Lane Kiffin was really good about drawing up plays to get him easy completions. But when you look at the tape and you look at the stats, and I'm just going to read the stats here. In 2023, 3,300 passing yards, 9.4 yards per attempt, 64.9 completion percentage, 23 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. And the rushing yards, 391 rushing yards. He had 614 rushing yards the year before that. And then this past season, he absolutely tore it up. 4,279 passing yards, 10.8 yards per attempt, 69.3% completion percentage, 29 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. And like I said, he has some work to do. He needs a good situation, a good landing spot. This quarterback class isn't special, but Jackson Dart, we could look back and say this was the guy that made this quarterback class not a complete dud. Now let's talk about Shedeur Sanders. And it's not that I hate Shedeur Sanders. It's that I think he's average. I think he was an average college quarterback. Now the production is going to speak to the fact that, hey, Seth, you're absolutely wrong about this, because the production was really good. Going back to Jackson State, couple years, over 3,000 passing yards. His final year at Jackson State, over 3,700 passing yards. And then at Colorado, over 3,000 passing yards in 2023, 27 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. And then this past year, 4,100 34 passing yards, 8.7 yards per attempt. That was clearly the best mark of his college career. 74% completion percentage, 37 touchdowns to just 10 interceptions. I don't think he offers us much in the way of a rushing floor at all. In fact, he's negative the past 2 years in terms of rushing yards, and I don't think he throws with anticipation. So I think Shedeur Sanders has a lot of work to do. The stats are really good. I don't think the film is as good as the stats. That's just me. Let me know what you think in the comments. My quarterback 4 is going to be Jalen Milroe from the University of Alabama. And this, similarly to Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe is a weapon in a different way. He's going to give us some rushing upside in fantasy. The past 2 seasons are really when he started to produce. Once he got the opportunity to start, 2,834 passing yards, 23 touchdowns to 6 interceptions in 2023. And then this past year, 2,744 passing yards, 16 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, 64.3% completion percentage. And Jalen Milroe will infuriate you with some of the throws that he makes, because he'll make some throws where you go, oh my God, that might be one of the best throws I've ever seen. And then the next throw will be in the dirt. He's very inconsistent in terms of accuracy, but if a team is willing to draft him, sit him for a year, maybe two, I think he has a chance to be an okay starter at the NFL level. I don't know. Let me know what you think. We are going to go to my quarterback 5 now, Dylan Gabriel. And full transparency, Dylan Gabriel's probably the last quarterback on this list. We're going to go down to 10, but he's the last quarterback on this list that I would feel really good about drafting in Superflex, to be honest, in fantasy and in terms of NFL. I really thought about moving Dylan Gabriel ahead of Jalen Milroe, just because of what he was able to do in college. I mean, going clear back to 2019, he was a freshman at UCF, 3,653 passing yards, 9.2 yards per attempt, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Yes, the completion percentage wasn't where we want it to be. It was less than 60%, but that's still pretty impressive for an 18-year-old freshman at a big school. Fast forward to Oklahoma, his age 21 season in 2022, 3,100 passing yards right off the bat, 62.7% completion percentage, 25 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Same story the next year, even though he was more productive. Then in 2024, 3,857 passing yards, 72.9% completion percentage, 30 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. And he's better as a deep ball thrower than a short to intermediate thrower. PFF graded him much better in terms of throwing the deep ball. I will admit, the reason he's not higher is because of his arm strength. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but I like a lot of what I see from Dylan Gabriel on tape, and as a result, he's my quarterback number 5. Moving on down, I do have Quinn Ewers as my quarterback 6, but this is kind of process of elimination, or not process of elimination. It's kind of choosing the lesser of two evils. I'm not a big Quinn Ewers fan at all, but I can't deny the production was there at the University of Texas. Again, he's not going to give us much from a rushing floor. I think he has a lot of work to do in terms of being more accurate with the football, especially down the field. That's just what I saw on tape. So again, this Quinn Ewers, whichever team drafts him, is going to be drafting him as a developmental quarterback, probably in the later rounds, probably on day 3. But hey, I could be wrong. The next quarterback up is Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord is another guy that I'm intrigued by, but I do admit that he probably doesn't have an elite arm. He doesn't have elite athleticism, but he's a pocket passer who, if you ask him to throw short to intermediate routes, I think he can do that. And I think he's pretty accurate. The last couple years in 2023 at Ohio State, had a decent season, 3,170 passing yards, 65.8% completion percentage, 24 touchdowns to 6 INTs. And then he had an absolute monster season this year at Syracuse, 4,779 passing yards. The yards per attempt number was down, which is concerning. 34 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. And again, he's not going to provide you much from an athleticism standpoint. But, if you ask him to deliver the ball, not deep, but short to intermediate, I think he could be okay and maybe an effective backup at the NFL level. We're going into tier 4 now. Tyler Shuck. I don't understand to be honest, the hype around Tyler Shuck. I fully acknowledge that he could be drafted a lot higher than I think he could. But if you look back on his resume, he hasn't done much of anything at all. In fact, he was the starter for Louisville just in one season. So we have one season really of full-time quarterback production, and it was good. He had a good season, 3,195 passing yards, 8.2 yards per attempt, 62.7% completion. And really any season where he's attempted, over 100 pass attempts, his completion percentage is pretty low. So I really don't understand the Tyler Shuck stuff. The film is okay. It's not great. So for that reason, I'm pretty I'm a lot lower on Tyler Shuck than most people. So the next quarterback that I have on my list is Curtis Rourke, who played this past year at Indiana, spent a lot of time at Ohio. And unlike Tyler Shuck, he did have some experience in the MAC as a starter. He had back-to-back seasons where he played in 11 games. In 2022, 3,257 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. In this past year in 2024 at Indiana, pretty good season. 3,042 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And again, he's not going to wow you athletically, but he proved to be a capable college quarterback, and I don't think he's much more than a backup at the NFL level, but he's my quarterback 9. And my quarterback 10, Riley Leonard from the University of Notre Dame. Again, probably not going to make much noise at the NFL level. At least I don't think so. I wasn't wowed by the tape, but you have to admit this past season was pretty decent with Notre Dame. Nothing crazy in terms of production. 2,861 passing yards, 66.7% completion percentage, 21 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. But he is going to bring you something on the ground, 906 rushing yards. So there is that. And if he lands in the right spot, and again, this is a long shot, but he could be an athletic quarterback that could make an impact for us in deep, deep, deep fantasy leagues, but that's probably wish casting. So there you go. Those are my top 10 quarterbacks in the 2025 NFL draft class. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you like this content, give me a like, subscribe to the channel. Best of luck to your favorite team, and we will see you later. Be good, everybody.